Hey, this is Jeff Waters from the Canadian metal band Annihilator, and you are reading and watching the one and only Riff magazine. As a teenager, he was in the Air Force, so I liked to go to air shows and see fighter jets, or build fighter jet models when I was a kid. And I love air shows and all the different planes. But no, that didn't really have any influence on the musical direction I went, or even music. It was like, we traveled, we moved around a lot. He was stationed at different bases, and we lived in England. We lived in London for about 3 or 4 years when I was a kid, and different bases in Canada and all that. So there was a lot of traveling when I was a kid, but when we sort of settled down in Canada, settled back down in Ottawa, Canada, I started getting interested in guitar playing, even at a young age, 7 years old, I think, or 8 or something. So my mom got me an acoustic guitar, which was twice the size of my body, and got me some basic lessons, and that was it. I started taking lessons, different kinds of lessons, classical and jazz, and got into rock music. I think, metal, as I knew it or know it, kind of, at least from my perspective, living in Canada, so I could see what was going on in North America. It seemed to die away right around '92, that era. The Smashing Pumpkins, Alanis Morissette, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, the bands. Metal was so big at that point. It was so big in the '80s, and such a big commercially successful, money flowing everywhere, and just so many metal bands. It was kind of too big in a way, and it got too crazy, I guess, and things always have to change and go in a cycle. And I think it's just come, not full circle, but it's really been, since the early 2000s, I think it's been slowly making its climb, and it's great to see the labels coming back around, because they took their time coming back to this, and it's great to see them come back. Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Canada's probably the last in line for metal, I think, coming back. You got guys in different types of music, like Danko Jones, plays sort of a hard rock, punk rock mixture. He's a big metal fan, a friend of mine. And Devin Townsend, one of the most genius musicians in heavy music. Just genius, period. And Canada doesn't support them at all. Devin will play sometimes an acoustic set to 50 people. And, Danko Jones fills up places in Germany and all over the place, in Europe. And he'll play to 100 people in a club and get treated like shit. So I don't have a lot of respect at all for the Canadian music industry. I have a lot of respect for Canadian bands. That's one good thing about the music business, is we've got so many great bands coming from Canada in all forms of music, from pop music, Bryan Adams, to, you've got all different kinds of bands in there, but you've got more of an original kind of sound coming out of Canada. In Canada, we're kind of influenced by United States music, and we're also influenced by a lot of British music. So you put that together, and you've got something a little different, right? Rush, Triumph, Voivod, Annihilator, early thrash bands, Exciter, Razor, Anvil. You've got so many pop bands, so many pop radio bands too. So it's a great place to be as far as the talent coming out of the country, and Canada will support artists usually only if they get to discover the artist. If you go outside of the country, like I did with Annihilator, we signed to Roadrunner in Holland and New York. When we tried to get some support in our countries, they didn't answer the phone calls, they weren't interested in supporting us. And we've never got any support except for a magazine called Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles. Now it's an internet magazine, but it used to be a big publication for metal in Canada. Or if the band is very successful, commercially successful outside Canada, and it's more of a pop or radio stuff, then Canadians will, oh yeah, they're Canadian, they'll back it. But in general, the Canadian industry is kind of different than anywhere else. Well, the only conscious effort was actually probably on the 2010 record, where there was a conscious effort by Dave, my singer and guitar player Dave, more of my partner finally, rather than just a hired gun band, so to speak. So Dave's been my partner basically in the music of Annihilator for almost 10 years. And he kind of said, you know what, just leave the ballads and the instrumental and the melodic stuff off. Let's just leave it off. We're not saying do a heavier record, but just leave off the more melodic stuff, which ends up being a heavier record, right? This time I just said, just do exactly what we want to do. And if there's a little Red Hot Chili Pepper intro to a song called, what is it here? No Surrender, I think. There's like 15 seconds of little funky flea-like bass and a little funky Chili Pepper drum vibe with a little Stratocaster, going on with a wah, I think, or a phaser. Put it on. Don't keep it off because it's not heavy. Just do what you want to do again. And so yeah, there's back to the the Annihilator style of pre-2007, which was, it's okay to put a bluesy thing. It's okay to put a funny, goofy, immature Canadian joke song on, or a song about food. We've written a few songs about food. It's okay to put a love song on. It's okay to put an instrumental on. Just do whatever you want to do. So we stuck to that. This time we just said, yeah, just do what you want. So I even got to sneak a nice love ballad in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm going to read the song titles because I can't remember them. This is day one of press, and I haven't heard my album in a long time, so I can't remember what half of them are about. Isn't that great? I'm on a press trip and I can't remember the songs. There's a bit of aggression in a lot of this stuff, eh?
Yeah,
I'm no use to you on that. Ask me about guitar stuff.
Yeah, don't worry.
Because I can't remember the bloody lyrics. But tonight I'm going to get to the hotel and I'm going to listen to the record and try to remember what we did.
Don't worry, we're going to edit this out.
No, it's okay.
But
that's the fun stuff. Yeah, some records I get influenced a lot by personal things that happen to me in relationships, in business, of Annihilator. If you get ripped off or somebody's trying to rip you off or do something dishonest to you, I can turn that around into a song. And I've done that. I've had an album called Metal. Great name for an album, Metal. 2007, and I think 2 or 3 of the songs were all about a former, not band member, but somebody we worked with, and I was able to take that one person, the anger I had for that one person being dishonest with me. I was able to write 3 songs out of that, But I think this album is a little more. There's some personal stuff in there, and in fact, there's a few songs where you wouldn't really know what it's about unless I explained what it was, personally. But that's a cool thing. You can write songs generally so people can take their own meaning out of it. And there's a lot of that on the record.
Did that person get any royalties?
No.
Actually,
that's true. There is a few people like that along the way. Where if I have any negative things with someone, I can write it into a song.
Yeah.
There's always inspiration if you want it. No, the music stuff is never, the music end is never driven by, I don't think. If you're in the mood, an angry mood or whatever the hell it is, I don't know. I don't think that really influenced personal stuff and all that. It doesn't seem too much to influence my music part. It comes in the lyrics for sure. But musically it's just, I can be in a really bad mood and still write a love song, or be in a really happy mood and write a Slayer wannabe kind of riff, you know what I mean? So. For the lyrics, the mood and what's going on affects things, but not so much for the music. Dave says he likes to, this is what he says, wants finished music demoed, and then he'll write lyrics to it. But So he only writes a couple of songs every album that we do. And I've said to Dave, you know, you could do the whole album if you want. Do all the lyrics. I'd be very happy because I produce, engineer, mix, master, play guitars, write the guitars, and then play the bass on all the albums, program or write the drums, and do all the work involved in that, in the whole thing. So I said, listen, you're good at lyrics. Do the whole bloody album. I told him this about 6-7 years ago. And Dave was, no, I need to write to the finished music. And what usually happens is I book his flight to come to Ottawa, because he lives in Vancouver, to time it right when I'm finished writing the music. And I have no time to give him the finished things. I usually say, just write lyrics on a paper and come here and we'll put those lyrics to the songs. And he can't do it. He has to have the finished music. So he would probably make the Annihilator records better if he could write all the lyrics. He's really good at them, actually. And the standout songs are Deadlock, that he had something to do with, or, you know, some of the best songs he wrote. Nope. I'll have a non-alcoholic Beck's beer. No, that's it.
Fair enough.
No, nothing. I mean, I guess a lot of bands would do that kind of thing. And, you know, I mean, if the press or the label wanted to really do something like that, okay, that's great. But again, I'm just so far away from that. We play, of course we play those songs, we play them live, we love them. But that's just like, you know, I'm 47. I wrote those songs when I was like 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is and I'm really lucky I didn't have like a Stairway to Heaven kind of song. Or we do, our version might be Alice in Hell, the song Alice in Hell, but then we also have a song that everybody wants to hear, which is King of the Kill, and then Set the World on Fire, and then Never Neverland, Fun Palace. We've got all these other songs. And thank God I've written some other songs that people like, because I know I'd be stuck with just Alice in Hell everywhere I go, right?
Yeah.
There are countries too, actually, that are pretty funny that Alice in Hell is their favorite album, and they say that was your biggest album. And I was like, no, it wasn't. There's one called Never Neverland was our biggest record. We'll never get to that level again as far as sales, but that was a big record. Second one. Those are the old days. No reunions and none of that stuff. We're just having fun now. Every couple of years, festival promoters will say, hey, why don't you do this album or that? And I'm like, do we have to? In order to play the festival, do we have to do that? And they say, no. And so maybe I would if nobody wanted to tour, like us to tour or something. Maybe I'd try that, but yeah. Never really thought about that. I finally met him last year on the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise, and I watched his band with the orchestra playing, and it was just impressive. He's an amazing guitar player.
Why do you think you guys don't get the credit you deserve?
I don't know, like, I do, but not through big record sales, but I get it through, I think the people that, I mean, I'm not asking for this, but I do get that through the people that really mean something to me, which is when other artists come up to me and say, that shock me, and I'm a fan of their band, and they tell me that they have some of my records or like something. Not just say, oh, I like your stuff, but they pick out things and say, you know, I really like that song and that solo or that rhythm or that time, or like a couple of guys in Slipknot were telling me the album Never Neverland was one of their biggest favorite records as teenagers. I'm like, really? You know, that was, to me, that was amazing. Even Nickelback or Three Doors Down, bands that are not considered metal, to hear that they knew of my music and have some of my CDs, it was just like, that's, as a musician, I think that's probably as good as it gets. I mean, you can have fans buy the record and fans like your music and stuff, which is amazing, but when your peers are saying they know of you, and it's pretty impressive.
Oh,
awesome. But I know what you mean. Like, do you mean like in the mainstream guitar press and the sales and stuff? Is that what you mean about Victor? And that all these guys from, like, obviously Slash, from the band that created one of the best debut albums in history. Image is a big thing. Style, I mean, the Slash has such a recognizable style. The top hat, the earring, the hair, the glasses, the whole bloody thing. He's a package. And it helps to sell guitars, magazines, albums, everything, right? Some of us, we're just not that. We just can't be that. I'm not that guy that could be on the covers of magazines from his looks or his hair. Obviously no hair, but you know, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that's a big factor too. Yeah, it's never really bugged me lately though, because I'm at a certain level with my career, finances, band, respect, this and that, where, you know, it's cool to get into concerts for free. It's cool to meet famous people. It's cool to be endorsed by Epiphone and Gibson. It's cool to have a record deal. It's cool to do tours and have fans. So it's not like a goal for me to sell millions of records and make lots more money or anything like that. I'm just kind of happy where I'm at right now, especially now that metal is kind of coming back pretty strong. It's just kind of makes your life a lot better. Well, when you, like I always, I'm from the Randy Rhoads classical style of when I learned and holding the guitar between the legs. So, you know, I loved flying V's. When I saw Accept, I had 2 white Gibson V's, especially the number 1 was KK Downing from Judas Priest, had the flying V's, the Hamer flying V's and all that, Gibson. That was right, I fell in love with the V right away. I think KK Downing was the guy that made me fall in love with the flying V guitar when I was a teenager. And with the flying V, you have to put the V in the classical style, because if you put it on the normal side, like with the Les Paul, it would slide off your leg. So the rubbery part on the side keeps it from sliding off your leg if you don't like the classical guitar position, right? Yeah, it's a good idea. I didn't come up with that, but the phone did, I guess. Yeah, the only thing I've done different on mine is I've installed this thing called an end tuner. It's like a not self-tuning. It's a tuner built into the volume pod, and it's got a band around it with lights, and it tunes. You tune and you can see it, so you don't have to go over to your guitar tech all the time and get a new guitar. You can just tune by yourself if you want. And I put new Switchcraft input jack where the cable goes into the guitar, because I noticed the one with the Epiphone one. Unless you have the proper cable, when you put it down between your legs, it can break, it can snap with the cable. So I put a really, you know, the heavy-duty Switchcraft ones. Other than that, I think it's the best metal guitar for the price, because it's not expensive. And it sounds killer. It's good for those squealy kind of solo Dimebag, well, Van Halen squeals, you know what I mean?
That has to do a lot with the arm, the type of...
The wood, yeah. It's, you know what, it's cheap to make, which was the best thing in the world to keep the price down.
It feels really different.
It's like a bowling ball. It's that kind of, and you like it or you don't, but one thing it does do is it gives you that squeal and that live feel, like an Angus Young sort of slapping sound, really messy sound almost. It's light. I kept the electronics to a minimum, just try to save weight, you know, because I just like lighter guitars. But the main thing was the neck, the way it was squealing, and we didn't use Epiphone related pickups. We wound our own Gibson pickups and put in there. So the pickups are actually the pickups on the neck are the real deal on that one. It's the real reason for the guitar being good.